You've probably heard of the human in the loop, right? It's sold as the ultimate safety net for AI. It sounds great, it sounds responsible, and it sounds, well, safe. But what if it's not? What if it's actually a disaster just waiting to happen? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on this idea and see why that safeguard you're counting on might be anything but.
Wow. I mean, this quote just gets right to the heart of it, doesn't it? It reframes the whole conversation. The human isn't a hero, they're a scapegoat. Basically, the person set up to take the fall when things go wrong. It forces us to ask a really tough question. Are we designing systems to be safe, or are we just designing them to deflect blame? Let's dig in and see how they're supposed to work.
All right, first up, let's talk about the myth itself. This is the official story, the one you'd find in a corporate policy document or fancy presentation. This is the clean, tidy, on-paper version of how human oversight is supposed to make everything okay.
And when you look at it like this, it seems, well, perfectly logical, right? The AI does the heavy lifting, it crunches the data, it flags the issues. Then, a smart human comes in, does that critical thinking, that gut check, before the final decision gets made. This is sold as the ironclad guarantee that we have accountability and that errors will be caught. Simple.
But that's the theory. Now let's talk about what happens in the real world. Because the moment you add the pressure of an actual job, a huge gap opens up between that neat flowchart and what's really going on. And this is where that promise of a safeguard just completely falls apart.
So check this out. This is where it gets really interesting, because it shows how something as simple as the design of the screen can change everything. The system is actually nudging you to approve. It makes it super easy. One click, you're done. But if you want to reject the AI's decision, whoa, suddenly it's a whole process. You got to open a menu, type out a justification. There's all this friction. Now, if you're in a hurry, which path are you going to take over and over again?
And when I say in a hurry, I'm not kidding. Let's add the first real-world pressure, sheer volume. Imagine this is your to-do list for the morning. 300 decisions that all need your careful human judgment. Just looking at that number is overwhelming, and the clock hasn't even started ticking yet.
Which, of course, brings us to pressure number 2, time. You've got those 300 decisions waiting for you, and, you have less than 4 hours to get through them before lunch. Just do the math. That's less than 1 minute for each one. Seriously, is anyone actually performing a cognitive check in under 60 seconds? Or are they just trying to get that number down to 0?
And this is so important. This isn't a story about a lazy employee or someone who doesn't care. No, this is a story about a system that is perfectly designed to create failure. It's a system where real, thoughtful judgment gets crushed by the sheer weight of mindless repetition.
And here's what that looks like in practice. The human reviewer stops being a reviewer. They stop thinking, and they just start clicking. That approve button becomes a rubber stamp, thump, thump, thump. And just like that, the human check, the whole reason for this process, is completely gone.
Let's put a name on it. This is rubber stamping. And it's tricky, because on paper, everything looks fine. The logs show the decision was reviewed. But in reality, the one thing that was supposed to make the system safe, actual human intelligence, has vanished from the equation.
And that brings us to the single most important idea in this whole explainer. You can write the best policies in the world, you can have all the rules you want, but if the actual experience of using your system makes it hard to be compliant, people won't be. The design of the interface will always beat the words in the employee handbook.
So, we have a system that's designed to fail. What happens when it inevitably does? When a bad call gets through and causes a real problem? This is where the system reveals its most cynical feature, the illusion of accountability.
This is what we call false accountability. See, the system is designed to create a perfect little audit trail. It'll show that the AI made a suggestion, and then, yep, there it is, John Doe reviewed and approved it at 11:03 a.m. The blame falls squarely on John for not paying attention, and that totally masks the real problem, that the system made it almost impossible for him to pay attention. So, let's just say it as plainly as we can. In a system like this, the human isn't a safeguard. They are a liability buffer. They've been put in that spot not to protect the company from mistakes, but to protect the company from blame when those mistakes happen.
Okay, so this sounds pretty bleak, I know. But it's not hopeless. Now that we know how these systems break, we can talk about how to fix them. It's time to move past criticism and actually build a better loop, one that's a real safeguard, not a scapegoat.
And it really comes down to smarter design. For example, instead of just letting people click as fast as they can, enforce a minimum review time. If a task requires 30 seconds of real thought, maybe the approve button is grayed out for that long.
And we can flip the friction, make the everyday low-risk stuff easy. But for a really big decision, yeah, let's add a couple of extra clicks and make someone type out a reason. And finally, just make it easy to do the right thing. Automate the evidence gathering so the human can focus on making a good call, not on doing paperwork.
And this right here, this is the ultimate test. It's the one question to ask about any system you build. A real safeguard has to work when people are tired, when they're distracted, when they're on their 299th task of the day. If your safety net breaks under real-world pressure, well then it was never really a safety net to begin with.
So I'm going to leave you with that question to think about. For the systems you design, build, or even just use every day, take a really hard look. Are you building a safety net that's actually designed to catch mistakes? Or are you maybe, just maybe, building a scapegoat that's designed to catch the blame?